Preposterous, declared High Archon Xylax of the Galactic Academic Council, his crystalline appendages shimmering with the neural patterns of amusement and dismissal. Humans have such colorful imaginations. The assembled scholars of 17 advanced civilizations joined in the collective response, a mixture of polite chuckles, telepathic mirth, and pheromonal indicators of superiority. Only Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth remained stone-faced, her expression unreadable as the prestigious gathering mocked the warning she had delivered. "Respectfully, Archon," she said, her voice calm despite the ridicule. "The legends of the Voidwalkers appear in human mythologies across thousands of years and unconnected cultures. We believe they represent a genuine threat that may have visited our world in prehistoric times." High Archon Xylax gestured dismissively. "Ambassador, the Galactic Compact appreciates humanity's enthusiasm since joining our community, but we have catalogued every sentient species in 14 galactic arms over millions of years. These Voidwalkers of yours, creatures that supposedly feed on fear and enter reality through nightmares, are clearly psychological manifestations of a primitive species' attempt to understand natural phenomena. The ancient Terran cultures lacked the scientific framework to process unusual events," added Scholar Superior Nextari of the Veldaxian technocracy, her tentacular sensory organs pulsing with what humans had learned to recognize as condescension, just as they invented thunder gods and sea monsters. Ambassador Chen placed a small device on the center of the conference table. It projected a three-dimensional image of ancient human cave paintings, alongside Sumerian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and medieval woodcuts, all depicting remarkably similar entities, towering skeletal figures with elongated limbs and featureless faces that seem to bend and distort the space around them. "Throughout our history," Chen explained, "we called them by different names: Slender Ones, Shadow People, Night Stalkers, Wendigo, RK Asai, Bogeyman, always with the same description: tall, thin beings that defied physical laws, appeared in darkness, and fed on terror." Fascinating cultural exploration, Xylax responded patronizingly, but ultimately irrelevant to modern galactic security concerns. 2 months ago, Chen continued, as if the interruption hadn't occurred. Long-range outposts in the Taurus Dark region began reporting unusual phenomena: sensor disruptions, crew experiencing shared nightmares. Then communications stopped entirely. This caught the attention of Security Director Krav, a hulking Morthari, whose species had evolved as apex predators. The Taurus incidents were attributed to radiation anomalies affecting crew psychology, he rumbled, though with less certainty than the others had shown. "Perhaps," Chen acknowledged, "but 17 outposts across 3 sectors experiencing identical hallucinations before going silent. The pattern is expanding outward, consistent with a physical entity or entities traveling through real space." The gathered representatives shifted uncomfortably. 17 outposts was a significant number, too many for coincidence, despite the Academic Council's dismissal. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador?" asked Xylax, his crystalline structures now pulsing with patterns, indicating mild concern beneath his continued skepticism. "That the Council authorize a joint investigation force to examine the affected sectors, with specific protocols we've developed based on our ancestral encounters," Chen replied. "If I'm wrong, you can add this to your anthology of quaint human superstitions. And if you're right," prompted Krav, his predator instincts clearly more aligned with caution than academic superiority. Chen's expression darkened. "Then we're all in grave danger." 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council chambers were in chaos. The holographic displays showed live footage from the Rigel colony, a major settlement of 2 million sentient beings now experiencing mass psychosis. The images were disturbing, citizens of various species reported seeing impossibly tall, thin figures at the edges of their vision. Sleep was impossible due to collective nightmares. Children across species described the same entity standing over their beds. And then the disappearances began. "The investigation force we sent has gone dark," reported Security Director Krav, his usual imposing demeanor replaced by noticeable agitation. Last transmission indicates they were experiencing the same phenomena reported at the original outposts. All eyes turned to Ambassador Chen, who stood grimly at the center of the emergency session. "The Void Walkers are real," she stated flatly, "and they're no longer confined to Earth's vicinity." "How is this possible?" demanded Xelax, his crystalline form now pulsing with patterns of distress. "How could such entities exist without detection by our science?" "Because your science, like ours, focuses on quantifiable aspects of our universe," Chen explained. "The Voidwalkers exist at the boundary between consciousness and reality. They were trapped on Earth eons ago by ancient humans, using methods lost to time rituals and mental disciplines that modern humans dismissed as superstition, just as you did." "What changed?" asked Nextari, her earlier condescension replaced by genuine fear. "Why would they appear now, beyond Earth?" Chen's expression was grim. "When humanity achieved faster-than-light travel using quantum consciousness technology, we inadvertently created a bridge. Our ships navigate through a dimension touching both physical space and consciousness, the same realm where the Voidwalkers were imprisoned." The implications settled over the Council like a shroud. Humanity's contribution to galactic travel, the consciousness-driven quantum fold that had revolutionized interstellar transportation, had unknowingly released an ancient horror. "Is there no defense?" asked a representative from the Pleiades Confederation, fear evident in their fluctuating bioluminescence. Chen placed another device on the table, projecting images of ancient human protective symbols, meditation postures, and what appeared to be primitive technological devices. "Our ancestors developed methods to resist their influence and eventually imprison them. These defenses weren't based on technology as you understand it, but on training consciousness itself to create barriers the Voidwalkers couldn't penetrate." "Psychological warfare," Krav noted with newfound respect. "Your species evolved specific mental defenses." "More than that," Chen clarified. "We evolved in the presence of predators that fed on our fear. Over generations, humans developed an unusual psychological trait. We can be attracted to what frightens us. We seek out fear voluntarily in controlled doses, building resistance. It's why we tell scary stories, why we created horror entertainment." For the first time, the gathered representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations looked at humanity with something other than amused tolerance. The species they had viewed as primitive newcomers had evolved under pressure from entities that now threatened the galaxy. "We need your help," said Xelax, his dismissal replaced by humility. "We need to understand these legends of yours." "Not legends," Chen corrected quietly. "Survival guides." In the months that followed, human psychologists, shamans and scholars became the galaxy's most valuable resources. Ancient practices, once dismissed as superstition dreamcatchers, protective symbols, meditation techniques, and communal rituals were adapted for diverse species facing a threat from beyond conventional reality. And in darkened chambers throughout Galactic Council headquarters, representatives, who had once laughed at primitive human myths, now hung protective wards above their resting spaces, performed rituals before sleep, and left offerings at doorways desperate to avoid the attention of the thin shadows that now haunted the collective consciousness of the galaxy. The laughter had stopped. The nightmare had just begun.